Hey kiddos, what we're going to dig into today is we're actually going to start talking about text structure all combined together. And so last week we worked each day at a time walking through these four text structures. We spent one day just really talking about it. I modeled how to find that structure. We did some together, and then we were kept reflecting in exit tickets all week. So this week what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you a passage and you're going to have to decide which of these four text structures is the author using in that passage. And don't worry, I'm going to model for you. We're going to walk through it together. That's what we're working toward today. So we know that this is our goal. Remember last week I said we're working on this until Thanksgiving? It says, I will be able to identify the structure of the text or an informational text and justify my answer with evidence. Now, we know when it means identify, it means be able to find it, be able to see it. Structure of the text. Remember, the structure of a text is how the author builds the passage. We know informational text is nonfiction. We know justify means prove it, and we always prove it with word for word evidence. Again, these are the four ways that an author can build a text. Okay. When an author sits down to write a nonfiction text, he or she has to think, what do I want to tell my reader about? What do I want them to know? This is how he or she frames the passage. Remember, we've been talking a lot about structures or like buildings, how we frame things. Okay. This is how the author frames his or her passage. So, one of the ways the author can do that is through comparison. And we know comparison is when the author compares two topics. Remember, last week we had that fun discussion about Captain Underpants and Dogman. We talked about how they are the same, how they are different. And so some signal words that I can look for are words like both, similar, alike. All of these are going to tell me how something is. Now I'm writing with my finger here, so cut me some slack. Oh, that just doesn't look good. We're going to stop. All of those things talk about how the topics the author is talking about are the same. These words like different, either one, in contrast, these all talk about how the topics that the author is comparing are different. Okay. The next one that we're going to talk about, or that we did talk about last week, was problem and solution. Remember, we had that fun discussion over what is this raccoon's problem? What is this raccoon's solution? And we know that a problem is what has gone wrong, the challenge, the conflict, the issue. The solution is how do I make it right? How can I overcome the challenge? How can I resolve the conflict? How do I solve the issue? And these are all words down here that can help us figure out if this is problem and solution. And then once we know, like, yeah, this is problem and solution, how do I know what the problem is? How do I know what the solution is? So words like, let's grab purple to show our problem words. Any word that says something like problem, issue, challenge, puzzle, dilemma. Those are all examples of problem words. Let's grab some blue for our solution words. Words like solve, fix, solution, resolution. All of those words signal how we're going to solve the problem, how we're going to fix it. Okay. All right, the next one that we are going to talk about or review is cause and effect. Remember, cause is the reason why something happens. Effect is what happens, the result. So if I water a plant, the effect is I can watch it grow. I'm going to see keywords like cause, because of, as a result, effect. All of those words signal to me that the author is trying to tell me why something happens and what happens as a result. And the last one that we're going to spend a lot of time on is sequencing. Remember, sequencing is when I'm putting things in order. All of these things here are just examples of things that I would sequence. So the life cycle of a person, how to pour cereal into a bowl, the beginning, middle, end of a story, timelines, especially right now we're working through Declaration of Independence, and we're seeing that's kind of like a giant timeline, right? We're seeing lots of dates. So these are all words here that are going to signal that the author is trying to put something in order. Now, I need you to hear me very clearly. These are also used as transition words. So even if an author is writing about cause and effect, you may still see things like first or finally, okay? It doesn't always mean that it's sequencing. If I only see first one time, it's probably not sequencing, okay? I need to see multiples of these signal words to help it and really ask myself, is the author putting something in order, or is the author just helping move his passage along? So I can see words like numbers, first, second, fourth, third, finally, lastly, but I also see words like then, before, next, start, after. And one word that's not on here that definitely should be, and again, I do not have good handwriting on this trackpad, but we're going to try here, are dates. Okay, think about my model last week. We saw words like 1870. Okay, dates, you seeing multiple dates. Pretty good clue that the author's trying to put something, especially like in history, an event in history, in order. All right, kiddos. So now that we've reviewed our 4 structures, what we're going to do is I'm going to model for you how to find it. Now remember, learning about text structure is important because remember, we spent a lot of time on main idea, and that's what the passage is all about. And I just did that hand movement. I know you can't see me. I hope you did it with me. It's what the passage is all about. But when I know what it's all about, then I can start kind of digging in and getting deeper and separating things out. Every nonfiction passage is organized into one of those 5 text structures. The 4 that I just reviewed are because those are the 4 that are the hardest to find. And then there's the 5th one, description, where the author is just giving lots of information. Now, every author picks in a nonfiction text will pick one of those 5 text structures. So every main idea also has a text structure. So when we understand both main idea and the structure of the text, we have a very deep understanding of what the author is trying to tell me, and that's just going to make me a stronger reader. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to model for you how I find the text structure without having a clue. Okay. My only clues are going to be my signal words. So here, this is the page that's on your Google Classroom, my in-class kiddos. This is the page that's in your reading journal. And I have all 5 of my, structures here for me. Okay. I've got description, sequence, cause and effect, problem and solution, compare and contrast. I've got them all here. As I read, I am looking for any signal word that I see on this page. Today, I'm not telling you it's going to come from the sequence box or it's coming from the compare and contrast box. We are developing and growing as readers. And so we are going to have to start really just reading a passage without any background information and going, okay, this is what the author is talking about. Now, remember, step 1 for finding text structure is to read it. And anytime I have a text feature, I want to look at that too. So I've got this title up here called The Alamo and Thermopylae. Remember, titles are really good hints for main idea, but especially for text structure because I have 1, 2 topics, Alamo, Thermopylae. Now, that's not going to be a 100% it is compare and contrast, but it is a really good hint that I could maybe start looking for some signal words right here. Okay. It doesn't always mean that though, right? It could be telling me the history of Hermopylae or Alamo and Thermopylae. It could be sequence. It could just be describing what happened there. It could be telling me the cause and effects. It could be telling me the problem and solutions with those wars. But we don't know until we read it. But things like the titles, those text features, they can kind of help me narrow down where do I need to be looking. All right, here we go. We're going to read it. And as we read, we're looking for any of those signal words. Even though they were fought centuries apart in different parts of the world, 2 famous battles have a lot in common. I'm underlining that word 2 just because it's telling me that there's 2 different things happening here, and that's a good hint. It says the Battle of the Alamo and the Battle of Thermopylae were both fought by small groups of men with no hopes of survival. Their goals were to hold off the enemy forces long enough for the main armies to arrive. At the Battle of the Alamo, just a few freedom fighters held off the Mexican army for 13 days. At the Battle of Thermopylae, 300 men fought against the entire Persian army. In both battles, I'm seeing that word both again, the sacrifice of a few inspired the people left behind. Okay, so when we read, we're going in and we're highlighting signal words. So I saw things like 2. I saw this word common. They have a lot in common. When I have something in common with somebody, it means that we have something that's the same about us. I saw this word that said both, and I saw this down here that said in both battles. Okay, I know if I go back to my reading journal, which is step 3, to go to your reading journal and look for clues to help you, that when I see both, and when we talk about how things are the same, which is what this word right here, common, means, same, that my structure is probably going to be compare and contrast. Okay, because this is where I saw most of those signal words coming from. So let's clear my annotations. Now that I have a pretty good idea of what the signal is, now I'm going to look at some multiple choice options. So here my question is, what is the structure of the text? I've got 4 options here. I'm going to read each option. Even if I think, oh, it's A, it's A, it's A, I need to make sure I check myself and read all the options through and give each option its fair consideration. A, the author is putting the history of the Alamo and the Battle of Thermopylae in order. Well, I know when I'm putting something in order, that's really sequencing. And I kind of already think it's comparing 2 passages. So I'm not going to pick that one yet. The author is comparing, there's that word. The author is comparing the Alamo and Thermopylae's similarities. Oh, and I know when something is similar, it is the same. And what I see here is these words both twice. I see this word common. It's telling me that there are similarities here between the Alamo and Thermopylae. At this very last sentence, it says, in both battles, the sacrifice of a few inspired the people left behind. So it's telling me something they have in common. So I'm kind of really thinking B. But remember, like I said, I'm a good reader, so I'm going to look at C and D just to make sure. C, the author is discussing the effects of the Alamo and Thermopylae. Well, when I hear that word effect, it makes me think cause and effect. And I didn't really see any signal words for that. My signal words were more for comparison, so I'm going to keep moving. D, the author is discussing the problems in the wars. Well, yeah, these wars definitely had problems, right? There were some big problems here. But again, go back to your signal words. My signal words are making me think, my title that I looked at the beginning is making me think the author is comparing these 2 battles and how they are similar. So the best choice for me here is going to be B. Okay? All right. I want you to pause this video for a second. I just want you to think to yourself, what steps did I follow? How did I know it was comparison? And what did I use to help me? Okay, hopefully if you are listening, you've paused, you've thought through these questions, and you've got some answers, okay? So what steps did I follow? Well, obviously, the first thing I did was I read it. I looked at my text features. I really thought about my title before I even started reading. I had a hint about what it was going to be. As I read, I highlighted those signal words. I went in my journal and I looked at that page and I helped narrow down what it was. I knew it was comparison because I saw words like both, I saw words like in common, and it helps me realize that the author was talking about how the Alamo and Thermopylae were the same. And I used my background knowledge of these structures that we learned last week to help me. And I also just used those clues in the journal, those signal words in the journal that we've been talking about. Okay, remember, this is our goal. I will be able to identify the structure of an informational text and justify my answer with evidence. Do you think I met that goal? Well, yeah, I definitely do. I definitely think I met this goal. I identified the structure, comparison, in an informational text. Yep, that text was completely informational. And I justified my answer with evidence. I read that sentence to you about how to justify it. So I definitely think that I've met this goal. So now it's going to be your turn. Now, this is my model. I'm going to keep this video separate from what we're going to do every day, but I want to go ahead and just kind of show you what your WeDo is going to look like. Now, the WeDo I'm about to show you is just going to be WeDo 1. Every other WeDo this week is going to, the passage is going to be different, but how you're going to do it is going to be the same. So we're just going to go over some real quick instructions, okay? So you're going to see this screen. You're going to have a task card. They all look like this. The passage is just going to be different. What I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to read it. I'm asking you there's going to be some drag and drop highlight bars on your screen. I'm going to ask you to drag the highlight bars to any signal words that you see. You're going to really think about what structure it is. And then you're going to come over here to the multiple choice and you're going to circle which one you think it is. When you're done with that, right here, you're going to type what clues justify your answer. I need this to be, and again, don't judge my writing here. I need this to be word for, my W's are pretty easy because they're just some lines. I need this to be word for word, okay? Word for word, straight out of the passage. If this is the sentence that I thought really helped me, then buddy, that better be exactly how it's typed down there. It's got to be word for word, okay? So, all right, kiddos, this is the end of my model. Look at your agenda. You're going to have some instructions about a WeDo. Go complete that we do, and then there's going to be another video for you to watch where you can check your work. Thanks for hanging with me, and remember, if you ever have questions, go back, rewatch the video. Virtual kiddos, take notes in your journal to help you because I'm not there to help you. And then make sure that you leave comments on Classroom if you need anything. Okay, kiddos? Thanks.